And joining us now to build on this conversation is One America's Washington correspondent, Jack Posobiec, who was on the ground during today's event. So, Jack, I just want to start with how this whole situation began playing out. I know that you were in the nation's capital during this otherwise peaceful protest, but there was another event that ended up taking the headlines of the day. How did this all start?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Alex. Thank you so much. I've been out here since very early this morning. It started out with an event that was held all the way down at the White House at the Ellipse, which is just in front of the south lawn of the White House, between there and the Washington Monument. The president's family spoke, Don Jr., Eric Trump, Laura Trump spoke, Ivanka. Then the president got up and gave a long speech, about an hour and a half long speech, detailing what he thought was essentially a stolen election. He went through, as we've heard before many times from the president, detailing his litany of irregularities with the election. He then called for a march to the Capitol. It was about an hour after he ended speaking that people made their way to the Capitol. I actually filmed it all right here from our studio. We were right across the street. And then about 30 minutes after that, I was walking by with a few people and the crew here, and we heard some loud bangs. To my ear, it sounded like either flashbangs or tear gas that was going off. We later found out that that was the first breaching of the security perimeter around the Capitol Hill. And so for people to understand, the Capitol Hill is normally very approachable. You can usually, in many cases, there's a lot of public entrances, but it's been on lockdown right now because of inauguration preparations and also because of today's events with June 6th. They knew a lot was going on in the city. So there were barricades set up at the front lawn and the back lawn of the Capitol. We're actually looking at the back lawn right now. And so what you then saw were people at the very front that had gotten up to the Capitol Hill originally. I keep saying "the" for some reason. That they wanted to go in. They were agitating. There were people who were agitating. They were breaking windows. Some of them were discarding those barricades, disregarding officers, breached their way in. Many, many others, of course, stayed outside during all of this while it was transpiring. But it did actually look at one point about several hundred people were able to breach the perimeter, were able to get inside Capitol Hill.
And when you say several hundred people, I think that it's interesting to note because, I mean, for example, we were doing coverage of this event all day, and we saw thousands of people lining the streets down Pennsylvania Avenue, all across Washington, D.C. And to be clear, it was a very peaceful protest, but then it seems like things started escalating rather quickly. I mean, you mentioned it, for example, there were a couple hundred people. Was this a select, maybe minority of the overall crowd that perhaps is now getting all this media coverage, or was this representative of what the scene was actually like in the nation's capital?
Well, I mean, it's one of those situations where if you're going to cover the event, you should cover the whole event. So, of course, we covered the people who protested peacefully outside. We're also covering the people that went over the line, that did go in. And, of course, violence is never justified. They were, in some cases, using violence to break into the Capitol building. At one point, we haven't got all the details yet, but it does appear that one Trump supporter, a woman, was shot by, it looks to be or appears to be, a Capitol police officer. We don't know all the details of that yet, but the video has been making its way around. So we're going to find out that, as well as her health status, whether or not she is currently in a medical status. I'm sure she is. And then also going forward, looking to find out whether there were people who are instigating these things, perhaps acting as agent provocateurs or just thrill seekers, people that are trying to, go viral, post images from the Senate floor, from different senators' offices, people who weren't associated with the organizing of the event, but actually came with the intent to do this beforehand.
Yeah, and of course, we're still looking to get a lot of answers as to, for example, who these individuals were, because there's still some people on the front lines who were there saying that there were some agitators, there were some people, of course, who were holding Trump flags, stuff like this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that...
Well, I can tell you, Alex, I've actually have footage of around 2:26 p.m., and I recorded there was a guy dressed in all black, but holding a "Don't Tread on Me," one of those yellow Gadsden flags, with a bullhorn chanting, come forward, climb the walls," actually urging people to climb up the wall. And then other people in black started climbing the wall. And we've got that on footage. I have no idea who that person was. I don't know what he also was saying that Trump is coming, he wants you to do this. And yet, of course, we knew that the president wasn't there. The president was actually urging people to go home and to be peaceful. So again, who these people were that were agitating, I can't tell you that for sure, but I can definitely tell you that there were certain people there who were agitating, instigating, and provoking that crowd to go further and go beyond peaceful means.
And we know that Capitol Hill police don't take these matters lightly. I mean, this isn't going to be the same thing as over the summer where perhaps some of these people get away. When you're in the nation's capital and Capitol Hill police are involved, you can be sure that there's going to be an investigation into that footage that you just laid out, as well as the other people who are on photographs and videos in the nation's capital. But Jack Posobiec, I appreciate you coming on the program tonight and telling us what you saw on the ground there. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Alex.